In the following interview, I sit down with one of the most prolific tech CMOs out there, Mr. Kyle Lacy. We talk sobriety, navigating head trash, overcoming self-doubt and anxiety, lessons from his aunt around the art of being present. We talk through navigating fatherhood and some personal experiences of hitting rock bottom. And then we transition into tools, books, and practices that have helped him lead a better life. But before we get into it, this episode is brought to you by our partners at optimizing.ai. Their patented emotion detection technology reveals exactly how your audience feels about your product demos, campaigns, tutorials, onboarding videos, or really any digital experience. So there's no more wondering if that hero video actually converts or if your product walkthrough confuses users. And they are actually offering 2 months of optimizing.ai for free to all Wake Up Call listeners. So use Wake Up Call in the comments when booking your free setup session, and the URL is in the show notes below. And of course, shout out to Dream Fuel. They are a mental performance coaching platform for leaders and teams. It was a huge game changer for me. As I've said before, I have personally been coached by their elite team of coaches and couldn't recommend them more. And they are also giving all listeners of Wake Up Call a free one-to-one coaching call. A ton of you have already taken them up on the offer, which is super cool. And I'm loving all the positive feedback. So keep it coming. If you're stuck, feeling plateaued, or looking to bring your game or your team's mental game to the next level, go talk to the team. Now, let's get into my conversation with Kyle. My podcast editor said this was his favorite conversation so far, so I think you'll enjoy it too. Mr. Kyle Lacy, welcome,
Mr. Parker.
man.
Thank you for having me. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, man. So one of my favorite things about having a podcast is it's like forced catch-ups with old friends, which is super cool.
Honestly, I think that's the only reason I have one. And I don't even do it that often, which I should, but it's definitely forced catch-ups, which are much needed.
Yeah, totally, man. How's the podcast been going? Are you enjoying it?
Yeah. I mean, when I do it, I had a bunch teed up and those have now been published. And now I need to figure out how to work in 1 or 2 conversations a month to keep it going. But I do think it's a great forcing function for just talking to people, which I don't think we do enough, or at least in the context of what you and I will talk about, right? Which is more life than it is sitting at a dinner talking about revenue and pipeline and all the stuff we love.
We still love it. We always gotta. We
do.
still love it. It is interesting that there aren't a lot of spaces for 2 men, 2 women, whoever, to just sit and have a hour-long conversation. It doesn't really happen. Like phone catch-ups happen. And then the only other one is, maybe over some beers. That's like, oh, we're going to sit here for 2 hours and we're going to just talk. And kind of the focal point is the alcohol. And then the conversation is secondary. And I think, if I remember correctly, are you sober now? Are you not drinking anymore?
It will be a year in July. And
Congrats, man.
I don't really miss it at all. What I do miss is the invite to go have a beer, which then led to conversations. The problem with that is that after like the second one, the conversation just spins out
devolves quickly
for no reason, and it's not beneficial to anyone. Frankly, you're arguing over stupid shit, right? But I do miss that. It was a kind of like what Revenue Diaries, which is about life and not really work. My podcast, that was also an outlet for me to have conversations with people that weren't about work, which is, 80% of my life is spent talking about this stuff. Right. So that's probably been the hardest part of kicking it. I don't miss any of the other quote unquote benefits of
Yeah.
alcohol and
Yeah.
drinking, but I definitely miss that part for sure.
Yeah. Well, congrats on the year. That's a
Well,
huge
thanks.
accomplishment. I'm coming up on 90 days myself, so I'm still a
Congrats.
baby. But it's been interesting, and I'm actually a good friend of mine who's going to be joining me on some of my travels. He's also sober, and I was thinking the other day, I was like, I think like once a week, we should go sit on a patio and just like crush non-alcoholic beers. And the reason I want to do that is for the conversation like this, to create that same environment of like, no, we have nothing to do. We are sitting here and having 12 non-alcoholic beers, and we're just going to get into some weird conversation, because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it is important.
Get some athletic, get a 12 pack of athletic.
Yeah.
I just wish I actually liked it, and I don't.
Yeah.
Like I've tried
Yeah.
it, and it's like this doesn't taste good at all. So
Yeah. They're slowly getting better, but doesn't quite hit the same.
it doesn't. It doesn't at
you,
all.
people might see me on this podcast in like 6 months and be like, I thought Scott was sober. Why has he got this like big beer gut going on? Just crushing non-alcoholic
10,
beers.
10 a day, 10 a day at night, just crushing athletic.
um, can you share a little bit about your journey in sobriety? Did you go to 12-step meetings? Was this a moment you had where you're like, listen, this is not serving me? I think, there's definitely levels of addiction. There's levels of alcoholism. One thing can work for someone, doesn't work for another person, but I think it is important to hear
Mhm.
what has worked for a few people.
Yeah, I mean, I think I knew for years that it wasn't beneficial, and I was drinking more than was normal, or if you want to categorize anything around alcohol as normal, because I don't think it is. But I it came to a head a year ago after a revenue kickoff at Jellyfish, which is the past company I was at, and I came home and I was sick for like 3 days in bed. Probably got COVID. I have no idea. We didn't. I didn't. I have no idea, but I was sick,
COVID
and
gave us all such a great excuse for hangovers, hey?
I
Just,
know.
just
Yeah,
oh, it's
yeah, yeah,
COVID.
yeah. And so it had led, I think looking back, there's certain parts of the journey or points in life where I think the alcohol led to rock bottom for me, at least burning out pretty significantly. And we can get into that. But for me, I was in bed for 3 days and I hadn't drank for like a week after I got better. And I just stopped. And the book that I always go back to, and I'm going to pause for a second because we can talk a little bit more about it, but is The Tools. And if you're listening on a podcast, I'm
Mm.
showing the book. Sorry about that. But it's The Tools by Phil Stutz and Barry Michaels or Mickles. Don't know how to say his last name, but I just always go back to this book if I ever have a problem. But my, I definitely have an addictive personality, but I have been able to cut things cold turkey pretty easily. I smoked for years because I went to a Christian university, and that's what you did at Christian universities is that you smoked cigarettes instead of other things. And I cut that cold turkey pretty easily. And alcohol has been, um, it's been harder, but I didn't do the 12-step thing. I more thought, okay, I have these tools. We talked about the shadow self before we jumped on that I try to use if I ever feel the need to. But I've just replaced it. For me, it was a it was a way for me to dull um all the head trash. I'm not being a good dad. I'm not doing marketing right. I'm not being a good husband. I'm not blah 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 blah. I call it head trash. People call it shadow self. You have what
I
did you
call it the
name yours?
trickster. Yeah, the
The
trickster.
trickster, which I
Yeah.
actually like better than head trash, but it was a way to dull it. And I dove headfirst into exercise and working out and doing things that are more that are healthier. But I think my journey has very much been searching for things to dull what's constantly in my head.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's just led to a lot of valleys. But, I think right now my spot that I'm in is fairly good, even though I still have that head trash just constantly
Hmm.
which I'm pretty sure it's always going to be there.
Yeah. Isn't it frustrating and annoying where I think sometimes, at least for me, I had these bad, habits, alcohol being one of them. And it was a great scapegoat. So if I was like
Great scapegoat.
depressed or anxious, I would just be like, oh, it's because I drank too much. And
Yep.
if and when I ever cut that out in the future, I'll be so happy. So like I always had that thought in my head. And then the unfortunate part is you do that and you're like, oh man, I still get sad. I still get depressed. I still get
Yeah.
anxious.
Yeah. After
And now I
you
have to feel it. Yeah.
100%, that's the hardest part of all this. You have, I mean, I look, man, I think the worst part for me was like I was drinking every day, straight up.
How
And
much roughly?
um depending on the day, 4 to 6 beers,
Mhm,
depending on the day. And they were like IP, like heavy,
mhm,
which didn't lead very, like my body, your body does not like heavy IPAs for any of you
mm-mm.
wondering that are listening right now.
If you
It
want to
does
try
not do
that
well.
diet, there will be
Yeah.
negative consequences.
Like Dogfish Head, Two
Yeah.
Hearted, great beer. Love that
Mhm,
beer. Just drank too
mhm,
much of it.
mhm,
But I would wake up at 2 a.m., have a terrible headache, and then be up for 2 hours just beating myself up
mhm,
every night, just
mhm,
constantly. It was just, and then when I cut it and it was 2 or 3 months in, like it's the happiest I've ever been. But you are right that after like 3 months, all the feelings that I was like my self-worth, or the lack of self-worth that's in my head, just came back
mhm,
no matter what I
mhm.
was doing. And I think that's the most important thing to note, is that it doesn't matter what you remove if you don't deal with the reason you were doing it to begin with.
Totally.
And most people
Totally.
don't.
Yeah.
They just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the way I've kind of like looked at it, and it's given me some hope, and we'll see if this is true or not, is before I would look to alcohol, sleeping pills, these other things to numb these feelings, that the head trash that you talked about. But what I was also doing was like robbing myself of learning kind of the skill of like
Yeah.
self-soothing,
Yep.
which is so important. If you look it up, it's like one of the more important things you can teach a child, is the ability to self-soothe when you have negative feelings. And we grow up and we become adults and we have access to these things that will do that for us for at least a short period of time. And so at least now when those feelings come, you're forced to deal with them. And I'm thinking over time that muscle will grow and get better, and that ability to
Yeah.
self-soothe
And
will
and
start to come
and
back.
yeah, sorry for, I'm very excited to just talk about this, so I keep
Yeah.
interrupting you. But for me, we're talking about tools. My kids were a huge part of that. I remember it was July 4th of last year. We had people over to our house, and we'd went over to a neighbor's house, and we were walking home, and I had had one too many, and I was like stumbling home with my family after July. It was 10 p.m. Everybody that has experienced it has done it.
Mhm,
And I remember waking up the next day and thinking, my kids just watched that, whether they knew it or not. Like
mhm,
they watched me act like that, and that is not going to be beneficial for them in the future. On the flip side of that, I was raised without any alcohol in the house. We barely talked about it. I also think that's not a great way to do it. So,
mhm, mhm.
my kids have definitely been a forcing function for me, but also they also create a bunch of head trash as well on whether I'm living up to expectations, or, you know, uh, the other part of the sobriety thing is that I'm very conscious of the fact that I that life is fleeting and the moments that you are experiencing right now, like us talking, um, will end. And I want to be conscious for most of it. And when you
Mhm.
drink, you're just not, right?
Mhm.
And you don't remember things and you don't remember the fun that you had with friends, or I don't remember going to the neighbor's house with my kids,
Mhm.
which is
Mhm.
crazy. Like it's absolutely crazy to even say out loud.
Yeah. I used to basically like use that autopilot to my advantage, like
Oh yeah.
there was the numbing component to me. And then when I was on the road so much and hosting people and meeting clients and all this stuff, and like I would hit my limit of, we'll call it give a fuck meter. I was like, I don't want to go talk about growing SaaS companies anymore, but I have to. And my little, you know, 3 martini autopilot. Well, let's let that guy do it because he'll find it
Well,
interesting.
yeah. I mean, uh, we went to dinner with, it was in California after the postal event.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And that was me on autopilot.
yeah.
But I'll be completely honest with you. After that, oh, we went hard
Mhm.
because we were excited and it was fun to
We
be
almost went
together
to
and
the
everybody was
casino too.
together. And I woke up the next day and I could not function.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
missed a whole day of stuff with postal because of me being an idiot the night before.
Mhm.
And that just compounds. And if anybody's listening that where you're dealing with it and you're questioning whether you should be doing something, you're going to look back a decade from now and it's just going, it's like compounding interest, just negative, right? Where
Yeah.
you're going to look back one day and be like, wow, this got really, really bad. And I didn't even see it coming. Any addicts that you talk to, they say that, especially if they've been through a 12-step program where, you don't realize how bad it's gotten until you hit the bottom. And
Mhm.
I've been very lucky that nothing massive happened to me that was like me hitting somebody while driving or just
Mhm.
crazy stuff or losing all my money or whatever. I'm very
Mhm.
lucky that that didn't happen. We'll knock
Mhm.
on wood that it doesn't happen in the future because we're all very fragile human beings. But
Mhm.
I think it's important that people think about that and realize that it's not positive.
Mhm.
It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. They say in recovery, they say this word yet a lot. So when people are
Yeah.
like, oh, I didn't hit, fully rock bottom, I didn't lose all my money. And then it's like, yet, if you
Yeah.
continue down this path, it's crazy, right? The fact that you're even thinking like that is a possibility that
Yeah.
I like could have
Yeah.
hit someone or something. And, this is, I never would be on here and be like, hey, don't drink. But I think if this is resonating in any way and you are asking yourself those questions, usually those questions are pretty right. They're pretty on to
Yeah.
something. I wish
Yes.
I probably knew, oh man, like 22. I was like, oh, I drink maybe a little different than some people.
Yeah, I was probably I so I was running a business and I don't recommend this, but I lived with a couple people that were working for me. And I
Mhm.
remember a guy's name was Austin Wechter. He was our designer. And I remember him saying to me, I'm concerned because you're drinking a beer during the day. And this was like tw
In your
2009.
head, you're like, I'm concerned you're not drinking a
Yeah, I'm
beer in the
like,
day.
don't be a dick, Austin. But the reality is that he probably had, I think he was going a little bit over the top, but it was probably directionally accurate. And it
Mhm.
led to, years later where the best decision I've made in the past, other than getting married and having children, frankly, is
Mhm.
cutting that out
Wow.
because the positive aspect, like there's too many positives
Mhm.
to not do
Mhm.
it, honestly. But
Yeah.
we could talk about that for hours, but that's kind
Yeah.
of we're meandering a little bit, but
Yeah.
I I will take it to my grave. I don't judge
Mhm.
people for doing it because everybody's different. But
Yeah.
for me, it's a net negative when I do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's dive a little bit into the head trash. I find a lot of people who seek, whether it's through working insane hours or alcohol or other vices, they look for things to numb that head trash, and it's because it's really loud, and there's feelings of inadequacy. There's feelings of I'm not good enough. What is some of the head trash that you have dealt with in the past, and maybe some that still lingers?
Oh, if you're not watching this, I am laughing because there's a lot. There's a lot of it. I think for me, the number one that I always think about is whether I am being a good father and whether I am doing what is needed of me to raise children that are functioning adults and happy. I think that's probably, if I were to pinpoint one that goes through my head constantly, it's that. Am I am I present? Am I too tired? There was a moment, I wrote about this recently, but there was a moment where I was sitting on my bed listening to my oldest laugh, thinking, I hope that I'm looking back on that video 20 years from now and everything worked out. And and it's weird because that's a form of head trash because I wasn't even dialed into the moment. Like I wasn't somebody told me, Rochelle, who's on my team at Doshebo, she brought up this idea of Kairos. I think I'm butchering it, but it's this idea that you have to be fully in the moment and not worried about capturing it. And for me, I have so much doubt and anxiety over whether I'm being a good husband or father that it's very hard for me to be fully in the moment ever. And I think that's a combination of brain fog. I think it's tiredness. Thoughts are scattered. I work a lot, but I love working. But it was, I don't think I'll ever forget that moment of thinking, this isn't going to happen again. And I'm thinking about how I'm going to respond to it 20 years from now, and I'm in it. It just seems crazy. I mean, it is crazy. Like, let's be honest, that's psychopathic, frankly. But for me, it's definitely parenting. I have head trash moments around my profession constantly. Like, am I doing a good job? Am I doing it right? What's going to happen if, you know, I don't deliver what I say I'm going to deliver? I said I was going to do something a day ago and I haven't done it. That stresses me out. And even though I love what I do and I'll probably die doing it, I don't think, I never think I'm, I don't think I'm ever delivering 100%, even though I know, like, even talking about it, even though I know that I am, even though I know I'm good at my job, even though I know that I have spent years building a brand and a expertise that's needed, I still doubt myself daily. So fatherhood, profession, I mean, there's tons of shit, man. We could get it. We could spend an hour just talking about my head trash, but I'll stop there.
Well, thank you for sharing, man, and I'm sure many, many listeners can relate to a lot of that. I don't have kids myself, but I can put myself in those shoes and imagine the weight. I'm also kind of a perfectionist that nitpicks at myself, so I imagine that's just amplified by 1,000 when you have this little mirror staring back at you. And
Yeah, well, I think, but we talked about it earlier. I think that's an important point. It's like I we talked about the doling of head trash by drinking or any other addiction, any other substance, whether that's a bunch of dopamine or alcohol or whatever. You're not fully in the moment then either, but it is a hell of a lot easier to just ignore it and just power through with another beer than actually live in your anxiety and dread. And I've found that I have instead of constantly numbing it and not dealing with it, I have evolved in the way I've been thinking about it. I have been more moment oriented with my kids than I was in the past. Do I beat myself up daily about how I responded to them or how I probably shouldn't have rushed them out the door today? Or I yelled at them the other day and I probably shouldn't yell at them because they're going to go yell at their kids 30 years from now and blame me because I was a bad dad. Just like complete bullshit. But I think the most important part is that you can't deal with it until you cut out the things that are numbing it. And the only way you're going to evolve as a human and actually live the life you want to live, which I know that you're on that journey as well, you're never going to be able to do it unless you deal with just the trash.
Yeah. Can I ask how your relationship was with your dad?
Yeah. I mean, it's I wouldn't say complicated. Do I believe that he would do anything for me and he loves me? Yes. Are we close in terms of like talking about things other than surface level work and life? No. Um, do I stress out about him getting older and not having that? Sometimes. But I think that um, it's part of my evolution as a father is to try to learn and evolve how he dealt with things. It deals with, I mean, my mom and dad are still functioning human beings and in life and loving life and all that stuff. Like I had a good upbringing, a conservative upbringing, but a good upbringing. So there's plenty to unpack there too. But I'd say it's probably surface level.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I imagine is that kind of what you're putting so much pressure on yourself as like wanting that
Yeah. Oh yeah.
deep connection? Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think there's certain moments where, I would have loved for my parents to have been annoying and pushed to ask about things. And sometimes they do. But I think I'm thinking about my kids 10 years from now. And my wife and I talk about this quite a bit. We want them to come to us with problems. Like we want to have the relationship where they're not fearful of making mistakes and doing something that we might think is irresponsible. I want to have that open relationship with them. And I think that starts very early on.
It's it's every time I have these conversations, it's just like, I it's fun. I wish everyone could see each other how like other people view them. I think that would be very helpful
Yeah.
for most people. But like
That would be very
outwardly,
helpful.
you know, outwardly, like I look at you, I've always, looked up to you. I think any marketer out there aspires to have built what you've built and to know and understand that you've been kind of battling a lot of this head trash for so long is re- reassuring, I guess. Like it's awful that you're, going through this, but what have been the tools? So I guess like alcohol was one of your tools, but like you've again and again chose to, take risks, take accountability in your work, put out great work. Like was a lot of that just like gritting your teeth and fucking pushing through, or what is what were in the what was in the tool belt, I guess, the early years, and how has that evolved over time?
I would love, like, honestly, man, I don't think I have started really using tools until like 2 years ago. I think the first 15 years of my career, let's say 20 years, like I graduated college in 2006, had a graphic design degree, and then started an agency and then joined Exact Target when I started in software. It was grind. It was head down, get shit done, do it in a way that you can grow yourself. Because I mean, the first decade, man, was all about ego. Like it was ego. Most of
Mhm.
my career has been egocentric, and that
Mhm.
you and I both know it does benefit you to have that type of mindset because you have a drive that some people just don't have it. So there's some positive to that. But for me, it was grinding. When I started, like the kids came, I got married, had kids. That started where I was like, oh, like it's not me anymore. Like I need to dial some of this in. And, you know, I I've been in and out of having a therapist and going to therapy. Um, I'm saying this out loud because I think it's important. I need to go back to them. You can't use a therapist as a band-aid. It has to be something that you're doing constantly in order for you to actually understand or learn. I tried hypnotherapy. That
How
was
was that?
interesting. Very interesting. I would recommend trying it. It didn't lead to any like massive cutting of addiction, which some people say, especially I think smoking it's helpful, but I think it was cool to experience. But for me, it's been two things. The book, The Tools, and actually, this is one that I read for management purposes, but Do Better Work by my past CEO and friend Max Yoder is a
Mhm.
great book about life in general.
Mm.
So Do Better Work and The Tools are two books that I read probably monthly now because they're
Wow.
helpful. Like I won't read I'll go back to like chapter 6 in Do Better Work is Have Difficult Conversations. There's a chapter about Make Time for Life. The Tools, there's a tool called Jeopardy. Um, and there's a tool where you view yourself on your deathbed and what you're thinking about as it relates to the current situation you're in. So if I'm like thinking about drinking, I think what is deathbed Kyle going to think about this moment 50 years from hopefully 50 years from now. And that like it resets you immediately, which is
Mhm.
so interesting. Like if you train yourself to reset. So those are the two books. And then I write, man. I mean, it's helpful with robots now, but I spend 2 to 3 hours a week writing about crap that's in my head. Most of it I share through revenue diaries, but some of it I don't. But the writing has been huge for me just to get it out of my head.
Yeah.
Writing is so, I don't know where I'd be in, probably I don't know, in jail or something if I didn't find writing early on. I always have loved writing.
I would
And
have also been in jail if I hadn't.
yeah, yeah. It's like I think it's just the way some of our brains work. Like I actually can't do proper thinking in my head because I have too many of these other characters and voices that are like
Yeah.
chiming in, and it's
Yep.
just a fucking mess. But as soon as I write, they kind of quiet, or at least I can see where I'm like deceiving myself, or that just doesn't make sense. When I write.
Well,
You know.
there's actually I think it's the Penny Baker experiment, Penny Baker expressive writing experiment, where it's actually proven that if you spend 20 minutes a day writing for a certain amount of time, I think it's 6 days,
Mhm.
you actually gain the benefit of therapy
Wow.
because you're getting it out of your head onto paper.
Mhm.
I'll send you. It's by James Pennybaker. Expressive writing, words that heal. It's fascinating. I'll send it to you so you can include it in the show notes. But
Yeah.
that was massive for me as well. I just wrote for 2 weeks straight just to get it
Yeah.
all out of my head.
I love it. I'm excited to check that out. And I want to go back to kind of Phil Stutz. If I remember correctly, is he the one that had that Netflix show with Jonah
Yeah, yeah,
Hill?
same
That was
guy.
so
Jonah
good, man.
Hill. Jonah
I
Hill.
loved
So
that.
the book is written by his partner,
Okay.
but Phil has like I actually enjoy it more because it's written by Barry Michaels and not Phil. Um, but I didn't get the whole book's okay, but it's like one or two chapters that I will just read constantly
Mhm.
because if you can train yourself to in the moment to think it, it is just so much easier, quote unquote, easier to get through some of the valleys. Because you're training yourself, it's a tool. It's like anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thinking of the finality of life can be a sobering task. It reminds me of, oh man, I got to get better now at remembering how to quote people and who said things. But it reminds me of someone was telling me about the way you should hug someone. And it was like the most profound shit. And I try and do it now. Because you know how like some people just give really good hugs? And you're like,
Yeah.
that was a great hug.
Yeah.
Like the key to giving a good hug, which sounds kind of morbid, is when you hug someone, take a second and realize that one day they're going to die and then be in that moment of that hug.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, man, that's an intense way to hug, but I'm here for it. And it's true. Like you never know. This thing is pretty
I think
fleeting.
what I'm struggling with right now is that mode of thinking for me is so negative.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I think some people take it. I mean, you might think about it from a positive perspective, but I've been constantly thinking about death and when it's going to end, and that people are sick, and I'm getting older, and you have certain amount of days and all this stuff. And if you're not careful, it could have the adverse effect, which is just depression. And so I want to voice that for people listening, because if you spend too much time thinking about it, it will do the same thing you're trying to avoid, which is you're stuck in a rut and you're only thinking about the future and when death comes and all that stuff, and you're not enjoying what's in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting that both you and I think we can say that from the outside looking in, we are successful at what we do. We've done a good job at it. Like I will say that. And
Mm-hmm.
there's only certain points in my life that I can point to is like, I can genuinely say I was 100% happy.
Oh man. Yeah. Fuck.
And it's just so weird to even think about. Cause I enjoy life. I think that
Yeah.
I'm very lucky, and I have been given opportunities that most people haven't. And
Mm-hmm.
still I'll get up in the morning and be like, ah, it's another, it's another Wednesday. And then I'll put it aside, but I think it's important to voice that, even though I think everybody deals with it and you always will. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's an interesting thought process.
Yeah, that was a
It's
little
insane.
depressing, that exercise as you as you said that. I'm quickly going, "Brrr, when was I happy? When was I happy?" And what was interesting is that the pattern that came up for me, the times that I'm like, "Ooh, I was super happy then," was not when something good happened. That always just was so fleeting, lasted 12 hours. The times and little periods were when there was some new opportunity. It was basically like I was starting a mountain again. Like I was at the bottom of a mountain, but I could see the path forward. And I was like, it like almost like the clouds sort of like go off. Like I remember getting the landing the sales hacker job like way back in the day. And I kind of knew I really wanted that job because I knew it was like, this is going to be a very visible position. I'm going to meet all these people I aspire to be like. And I was like, oh, now I have this opportunity. All I have to do is climb. And I felt so comfortable climbing that I was like, oh, I'm going to get there. And so those periods would make me super happy. Not while I was climbing, not at the top. It was funnily enough, like the brief piece I would get would be at the bottom, and I'm just getting ready, like about to fucking climb. Let's go. you know?
Well, yeah, I think it's important to know. And I want, after I'm done, you definitely should. I think we talked about the mountain concept before we started recording. So maybe I think it'd be important to voice that for people, but I'll give you an example, a real life example. I remember when Seismic bought Lessonly for a good amount of money, and it's the goal. All of us are in this venture-backed software world to get bought and make money. That's why you do it. That's why you grind. We had done it. It'd been 4.5 years. We did it. A lot of people got money. I remember getting the money, and it lasted 12 hours. Not the money, but my, my, like, my
Thank goodness.
excitement. I mean, I remember thinking, this is just, I don't think I've ever said this out loud. I remember thinking, wow, I wish it was more,
That's the
which
first
is
thought almost
crazy.
always. Yeah.
It is crazy because it was a lot.
Mhm.
In my world at the time, I had made, it was good money that I had spent 4.5 years, and it lasts, the feeling of we did it lasted a day. And then guess what I did? I took the SVP job at Seismic and started grinding 2 days later at the company that bought us. And I hit rock bottom like 9 months later.
Mhm.
Cause I did. And I think it's this idea that when you have drive and you want to accomplish something, you're never finished ever,
Mhm.
unless you completely change, which I think kudos to you. You are trying to do, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I will forever remember that moment. I was driving and I remember thinking, okay, what's next? And it had been a day,
Mhm.
one day.
Yeah. Oh,
We,
that
I,
that
it's
lands.
like, how many people experience that in our world? 1%?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you beat yourself up for not being grateful, and
Yeah. Oh yeah.
all of
Oh
that.
yeah.
Then there's
Oh
like
yeah.
this self of
And
like,
I'm not doing a good job as an SVP of a company I had only known about as a partner for years. I mean,
Yeah.
and then it just starts again, constant.
Yeah.
you know what's uh, interesting hearing that story, and I want to get into kind of this period that you had at Seismic where it got pretty low. But one of the trends I'm seeing with my story and your story, and it's crazy how similar all of these things are. Maybe we should do like a plot graph of these at
We
the
should
end of
do a
all
plot.
these
They're
interviews and be
probably
like,
exactly the same.
right, literally. But it, I think people should be on the watch or a little more vigilant with their mental health and how they're doing right after something big happens that you've kind of always wanted. You know, you
Yeah.
got that thing that you were able to deceive yourself into thinking, well, when I get the big exit, that's when Kyle Lacy will be happy. You know, for me, it was okay, we're building this fund. We did it once. Can we do it twice? Okay, now we're doing 50 million. Okay, the $50 million fund, if I can just do that, that's when Scott will be
Right.
happy.
Right.
And we did it, we smashed it. And then right after that, similar to you, we went to Japan, incredible, had a great trip, but immediately start talking about 100. And it's just like, fuck. And then that's when it was slowly, started to devolve pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think it's something that people should be conscious of is like the something might kick you off the mountain right when you get to
Yeah.
what you
And I
think is the top.
and you also worry about that. I worry
Mhm.
about, oh, I've had a good run.
Mhm.
When's my rock bottom gonna hit again? But I think I also think quite a bit about, the study. I can't source the study, but they interviewed a bunch of people who were at the end of their life, and the majority of them said that the number one regret that they have is that they didn't spend more time with friends and family.
Mhm.
And you hear that, and I don't think I hear it constantly. I think about it constantly. I don't really change the way that I'm the way that I'm approaching that, even though I hear it, even though conceptually I know that it's right, that I'm
Mhm.
going to be 80 and I'm going to think the same thing. But I don't understand why it's so hard for us to recognize something that is truth and actually act against it. And I think about that like constantly, man.
Yeah,
Even
I
though
mean,
I'm good at it,
yeah,
even though we're good at what we do, and I
yeah,
enjoy what I do. I like
yeah.
working. I like what I do. I'm not like a robot that goes to work. It's like, I hate doing this. I have to do it. Right. Like
Mhm.
I genuinely like what I do.
Yeah.
That the point on kind of intellectually knowing something and then acting on it is, man, you say you think about it all the time. In this little like new chapter, and thinking about it like constantly because all of these things that I'm starting to, I guess, call it actually integrate, and I'm trying to like share them with people. And they're all just cliches that I've heard 7 billion times. But for whatever reason, I'm ready to hear it
They're all
now.
in Sahil Bloom's book too. If you
Yeah. It's a really interesting thing, and I think that's why you have to speak through stories and things. It's like hoping that people wake up because you can only like internalize something, I think, when you're ready for it. But like, how
uh,
many times have you heard, "Hey, money and success won't bring you happiness"? You're like, "Yeah, fuck you," like, okay,
what's the
cool.
Ben Affleck quote in Boiler Room?
Um,
When your mom and uh fuck you, mom and dad, see what you're saying when you're paying their fucking Lexus payments.
yeah,
Money is the root of all evil. Uh, whoever said money is the root of all evil doesn't have any.
yeah, yeah. That was probably
Great
my
movie, by
my
the way.
mentality.
If you
Great
haven't
movie.
seen it,
It is
all
very
you
good.
young people listening, go watch Boiler Room.
Very good movie. Um, but yeah, man, it is interesting, and hopefully that is kind of the goal with this podcast. It's just like planting little seeds that like maybe help a few folks on their journey wake up
I'll
faster
yeah,
than I did.
I'll give one more, just one more
Yeah,
story, and then we could you and I could talk about this for 2 hours. But my um my late Aunt Wendy, who passed away. Now I'm gonna hate myself for not remembering. Honestly, it's been 3 or 4 years. I think she passed in 2020. Um, she was kind of the central. She was the hub of our family, at least on my
the
mom's side,
matriarch kind
the
of vibe.
matriarch.
Yeah,
Uh, her and her husband Dwayne did an amazing job with a business that made them a lot of money, and they had a cabin, it's not a cabin, it's a house on a river in Idaho that all of us went to every year, who we still do, even though she's passed, as a reunion. And I will never forget her ability to be in the moment. Where if when you got a hug from her when you first arrived, to her asking you questions about life, what you're up to, you were the only person in the room. And you could watch her do that with everyone over the course of a couple days of us being there. You could actually see her moving from person to person, and she was locked in because she cared so deeply about what was going on. And for me, it's a tool because I can always think back on how locked in she was and how much she wanted to understand how we were living and what we were dealing with as family, right? And so as I'm having conversations with people or talking to my kids or my wife or my parents, I try to think about Aunt Wendy on how dialed in she was. And because she was so dialed in, you knew she cared. And I never appreciated that until she died, which is crazy. Like, and so it helps you just, um, it helps you remember to be in the moment and to appreciate what's happening in front of you and not let all the crap that you're going to deal with in your head or the pain and the suffering and the need for accomplishment and recognition and all the stuff that I think is a negative for the most part to keep you from experiencing what's in front of you. I mean, so for me, you asked about tools. You can read the books, but you really need to find somebody in your life that is the example that you want to follow, whether they are still here or not.
Mm-hmm.
We're so lucky if we get to have an Aunt Wendy in
Yes, we are.
our lives.
We are. I was lucky to have her for sure.
Yeah, it makes me think of, I definitely had one in my life, and she's unfortunately passed away as well. And it was actually my best friend's mom, Linda, was just, man, would make you feel so special, dude. Like
Yeah.
it was wild, and like just like the memory recall, and like, and the
Yeah.
fact that you said she was doing it with everyone, but like every single person in that room was like, no, but me and Linda have something special.
Yeah.
It's just
100%.
unique, you
100%.
know.
Yeah.
Uh,
And what's so interesting about it is that I can see she has two boys, my cousins, and the youngest one, Stuart, who's not young anymore, but he has a family. He acts exactly like her.
Mm-hmm.
He will go from person to person. I think part of it is he feels like he's the steward of that, even though his name is Stuart. You can edit that
Stuart the
part. You can
Stuart.
edit
No,
that part.
we're keeping it. I love that.
Stuart is the steward of Aunt Wendy,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
he's also living into that. And for me, it's such a great representation of what could happen if you're in the moment with your kids and they can see the positive output of that. And I mean, there's just so much positive to just being not worrying about things and just being in the moment no matter where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
And Aunt Wendy was so good at it. She was so good at it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend who I think puts it so beautifully. She says the greatest gift you can give another person is your nervous system. And that's really stuck with me because it's like, oh, like Aunt Wendy was doing the work, to be
Yeah.
that calm, to be
Yep.
that present. It takes a lot of work behind
Yep.
closed doors that we don't see. And then she's able to show up and kind of give that gift of presence to other people. Um, so cool, man. Thanks for sharing.
For sure.
Talk me through quickly this burnout you had at Seismic, and maybe let's focus on the how you got out of it.
Yeah. So I mean, it'd been a long time coming. Like I was grinding at Leslie for 4.5 years, as I said before. And with the alcohol, lack of sleep, self-hate, like just you could put all the stuff on the board. With the changes in my team and not being able to handle like the Seismic team and the Leslie marketing team and them working together, there was a point I was in San Diego we might have been in Palm Springs actually. I woke up one morning and I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go to the meeting. I didn't care. I was hungover. That probably didn't help. Uh,
COVID again.
COVID. Yeah. COVID. Chalk it up to COVID again. And that's when I decided, hey, I need to figure out how to get out of this. And I need to talk to Doug, who's the CEO at Seismic, and I need to move on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it took, I'm very lucky that I could do this, just to preface. It took 3 months, 2 to 3 months of me not doing a day-to-day work. I mean, look, the first week I left Seismic, my wife had to tell me to stop taking calls because I was like talking, like I was doing 4 or 5 calls a day and I'm supposed to be like resting or whatever. It took 2 months of me not doing anything for me to feel like I was better. And I wasn't really that better because I was still drinking and I was still maintaining the same lifestyle that had led to the burnout. The only difference was I didn't have the stress of work.
Right. Yeah. So it's
And
more manageable that way.
it was more manageable. It wasn't affecting what I really cared about, which was work, which is also a point where, if it's affecting my family, but I care more about it affecting my work. That's a problem that I have to deal with, right? Because I'm putting work before the things that truly matter. Um, and it took, like, I was seeing a therapist for, I think, twice a week for 2 months. And then finally, when I started looking for my next thing, I felt like I had regained some level of composure, and I wasn't, but I really didn't either. Like, actually, like, thinking about it, I just didn't have work stress. And then
Mhm.
when I joined Jellyfish, the stress caught up again, and the same routine came into play. And that doesn't help anybody either. And so it eventually led to last year where I had to, like, cut out quite a bit to say, hey, this is not a road you want to go down, because it's not going to end well at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. If you could, fly back to one of the darker periods, let's say it's, that morning you wake up after the, seismic team event, what do you tell Kyle? Do you think there's anything you could have said that would help him wake up earlier?
Um, Deal with your shit. I don't like, I'm not like I think the reality of these suppressants that we use in life just masks this idea that you have feelings and desires and pain and suffering and experiences that you have to deal with. And if you don't deal with them, it's it's going to become a cycle again.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think that's what I would say, right? Because I mean, I even struggle with that today. Like, I probably should be doing more to deal with it because I don't want it to rear its ugly head again.
Yeah. It's great advice, man. I think we can all internalize that. Just deal with your shit. Like, man, it's so funny if everyone just did that. Like, for me, I would deal with anything but my shit. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
I'll raise $50 million, but I'm not gonna I'm not gonna fucking look at my shit. Let's go do something else. And I think that's where this cycle of just,
Well, you're always trying to find that next win,
Mhm.
and that's
Mhm.
addiction,
Mhm.
whether
It
it's career or alcohol or anything else. Like, you're always trying to find that next thing and not caring about how you get there.
yeah, yeah. Well, Kyle, I appreciate you, man. I see you. I'm so happy that we got to do this, and I appreciate you sharing so, like, open and honestly. I think this is gonna hit home with a lot of people out there. I'll make sure we put those books, the tools, in the show notes. I'm excited to read that one. I might try and get it before I hit the road.
Oh yeah, I look, there's a great quote from Jonah Hill on the tools where I love the life these tools have allowed me to have.
Mhm. Mhm.
I mean, if you haven't watched the Netflix thing, that's a great primer, but I highly recommend it. And I will say to you, kudos to you, man. Not easy. Major props to you for making these decisions, and it takes a lot.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, seriously.
Well,
So good luck. Thank you for chatting. I will always make time for this for sure.
appreciate you, brother. And to all our listeners, thank you for hanging out with us. Thanks for waking up with us. And we will see you next week.